I could put on clown makeup and I was relaxed.
Yeah.
They had so many different psychiatrists saying so many different things that they all came up with different diagnoses.
And I enjoyed doing it.
In the quiet suburbs of 1970s Chicago, a man named John Wayne Gacy embodied the American dream. A successful contractor, a Democratic precinct captain, and a beloved entertainer known as Pogo the Clown, Gacy was a fixture at block parties and charity events. His neighbors saw him as a pillar of the community, a man who organized holiday parades, hosted cookouts, and even met First Lady Rosalind Carter during a local political event. But beneath this carefully constructed facade lurked a predator whose crimes would shock the nation. By the time authorities uncovered the truth, Gacy had brutally murdered at least 33 young men and boys, burying most beneath his home in a silent testament to his depravity. This case is more than a catalog of horrors. It's a mirror held up to society, revealing how prejudice, systemic neglect, and the allure of respectability allowed a killer to operate undetected for years. The victims, many of them marginalized teens and young adults, were failed long before they crossed Gacy's path. As we unravel this story, we'll confront unsettling questions. How did Gacy's charm and status shield him from suspicion? Why did law enforcement dismiss warnings from desperate families? And what psychological forces transformed a bullied boy into one of history's most prolific serial killers? This documentary does not sensationalize violence. Instead, it seeks to honor the victims, dissect institutional failures, and explore how Gacy's legacy reshaped criminal investigations. Through interviews with experts, survivors, and archival evidence, we'll piece together the puzzle of a man who personified duality: the clown and the killer, the neighbor and the monster. The path to discovery. The unraveling of Gacy's double life began on December 11, 1978, when 15-year-old Robert Peast told his mother he was staying late at Nissen Pharmacy to discuss a potential construction job with a contractor. He was never seen alive again. Des Plaines Police Lieutenant Joseph Kozenjak, leading the investigation, traced Piest's last known contact to John Wayne Gacy. What began as a routine missing persons case soon spiraled into the largest serial murder investigation in U.S. history. Gacy initially cooperated, inviting detectives into his home on Summerdale Avenue, but red flags emerged immediately. Officers noted a pungent odor, later attributed to decomposing bodies, and Gacy's erratic behavior, including nervous jokes about the smell of death. A background check revealed his 1968 conviction in Iowa for sexually assaulting a 15-year-old boy, a crime for which he served only 18 months. Armed with this information, Kozenjak secured a search warrant. On December 13, 1978, detectives discovered a crawl space beneath Gacy's home. What they found defied comprehension. Human remains buried in shallow graves, tangled in lime and plastic sheeting. Over days, the body count rose. 29 victims under the house, 4 more in the Des Plaines River. Forensic anthropologist Clyde Snow faced the grim task of identifying skeletal remains, some decades old. Dental records, jewelry, and Gacy's own confessions, including hand-drawn maps, helped put names to the dead. Yet the investigation was fraught with missteps. In 1975, Gacy had been questioned after 18-year-old John Butkovich vanished while demanding unpaid wages. Police closed the case for lack of evidence. Similarly, when 19-year-old Jeffrey Rignall escaped after being tortured with chloroform, his testimony was dismissed as drug-induced paranoia. These oversights underscore a chilling truth. Gacy's status as a white middle-class professional blinded authorities to his crimes. Lieutenant Kozenjak said in an interview, "We kept thinking, this guy's a contractor, a clown. He can't be a killer," but the evidence didn't lie. Stories lost to shadows. Behind Gacy's staggering body count were 33 individual tragedies. Most victims were working-class boys and young men aged 14 to 21. Runaways, sex workers, or teens lured by promises of jobs or money. Gacy preyed on society's most vulnerable, knowing their disappearances would attract little attention. John Butkovich, 18, vanished in July 1975 after confronting Gacy over unpaid wages. His mother, Carol, spent years pleading with police to reopen the case. Gregory Godzik, 17, was last seen leaving his family's Christmas party in 1976, telling his sister he was meeting a contractor. The youngest victim, 14-year-old Samuel Stapleton, disappeared in 1976 while hitchhiking to a friend's house. For families like the Peasts, closure came at a cost. Robert's body was found in the Des Plaines River, identified by dental records. His mother, Elizabeth, later said, "I kept hoping he'd come home. Now I hope he didn't suffer." Tragically, 10 victims remain unidentified. Forensic anthropologists used facial reconstructions and isotope analysis to trace their origins, but many were estranged from families or lacked records. In 2011, advances in DNA technology identified William Bundy, a 19-year-old factory worker, but others remain known only as Victim Number 5 or Victim Number 19. Modern-day interview with a survivor. "He offered me $20 to help with a job. I said no. Later, I saw his face on the news and realized how close I'd come, confronting a monster." Gacy was arrested on December 21, 1978. In custody, he oscillated between chilling candor and manipulative denial. He initially confessed to 30 murders, even sketching burial sites, but later blamed alter egos, like Jack Hanley, a persona he claimed did the killing. Prosecutors Sam Amarante and Robert Egan built a meticulous case. Evidence included victim belongings, IDs, jewelry, Gacy's handcuffs and chloroform, and soil samples matching his crawl space. Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Helen Morrison testified that Gacy's claims of dissociative identity disorder were fabrications. "He knew exactly what he was doing," she stated. The defense, led by Robert Mata, argued insanity, citing Gacy's traumatic childhood and alleged brain damage. But the jury rejected this after hearing Gacy's calm, calculated descriptions of luring and strangling victims. On March 13, 1980, he was convicted of 33 murders and sentenced to death. The trial's aftermath was fraught. Gacy became a macabre celebrity, selling clown paintings from prison and granting interviews. Families of victims protested his notoriety, demanding focus remain on the lives he stole. Red flags ignored. Gacy's 6-year killing spree was enabled by systemic apathy. After his 1968 Iowa conviction, parole officers deemed him low risk, ignoring psychologists' warnings of his psychopathic tendencies. Upon moving to Illinois, he seamlessly rebuilt his life, exploiting societal biases. When 18-year-old John Butkovich vanished in 1975, his mother Carol provided detectives with Gacy's name and address. They declined to search his home, citing lack of probable cause. Similarly, Jeffrey Rignall's 1978 testimony, detailing torture with chloroform and a sex toy, was dismissed as homosexual hysteria. Rignall later wrote a memoir, 29 Below, to force accountability. Even media coverage reflected prejudice. Early headlines labeled victims drifters or male prostitutes, framing them as complicit. This bias delayed recognition of patterns in disappearances. Post-Gacy reforms included the Federal Missing Persons Act, 1982, mandating faster reporting, and databases like VICAP to track serial offenders. Yet the case remains a haunting lesson. Justice delayed for the marginalized is justice denied. Criminologist Dr. Elizabeth Bond in an interview. Gacy didn't just exploit victims. He exploited a system designed to protect people who looked like him. The making of a monster. John Wayne Gacy was born in 1942 to John Stanley Gacy, an abusive alcoholic, and Marion Robinson, a devout Catholic. His father berated him as weak and worthless, once beating him with a belt for befriending a disabled neighbor. A childhood bout with a heart condition left him bedridden for months, fostering resentment and isolation. Desperate for approval, Gacy became a model teen, working at a funeral home, joining the JCs, but his inner turmoil festered. After moving to Iowa, he married co-worker Marlyn Myers in 1964 and fathered 2 children. Behind closed doors, he assaulted male employees and frequented gay bars, leading to his 1968 conviction. Post-prison, Gacy reinvented himself in Illinois. He remarried, fathered 2 more children, and built a contracting empire. Neighbors saw a gregarious family man, but his wife Carol later recalled erratic behavior, stockpiling handcuffs, staying out all night, and burying gardening supplies in the crawl space. Psychologists speculate his crimes were an outlet for repressed rage and self-loathing. As he once told a journalist, "I am the clown. The world made me," inside the mind of a predator. Gacy's psyche has been dissected for decades, diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, narcissism, and paraphilias. He exhibited textbook traits of a psychopath, superficial charm, lack of remorse, and a need for dominance. His Pogo the Clown persona served dual purposes. It disarmed victims and allowed him to compartmentalize violence. Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Helen Morrison noted, "The clown was a mask, a way to distance himself from the monster. He didn't kill for sexual gratification. He killed to feel powerful, to finally be the bully, not the victim." Yet debates persist. Was Gacy born with a genetic predisposition, or did trauma mold him? A 1992 PET scan revealed abnormal frontal lobe activity, hinting at impaired impulse control. However, as psychologist Dr. Catherine Ramsland argues, biology isn't destiny. Millions have trauma without becoming killers. Gacy's own writings reveal a manipulative mind. In prison letters, he alternately claimed innocence, blamed victims, and boasted of outsmarting police. To the end, he weaponized his notoriety, telling a reporter, "I am the boogeyman parents warn their kids about." Gacy's shadow. Gacy was executed on May 10, 1994. His final meal, fried chicken, shrimp, and strawberries, mirrored the banality of his evil. In death, he left a fractured legacy. Victims' families grappled with grief and anger. Some, like Sam Stapleton's mother, became advocates for missing children. Others, like Robert Piest's sister, campaigned against the death penalty, believing it granted Gacy the attention he craved. The LGBTQ+ community faced collateral damage. Gacy's crimes fueled harmful stereotypes linking homosexuality to predation, despite most victims not identifying as gay. Activists like William T. Nash fought to reframe the narrative. Gacy wasn't a gay man. He was a predator who exploited stigma. Forensic science, however, advanced in his wake. The case popularized DNA profiling and spurred reforms in missing persons investigations. As former FBI agent John Douglas noted, Gacy taught us to listen to the marginalized. Truth in the darkness. John Wayne Gacy's story is a tapestry of horror and hubris, but also resilience. The 33 lives he stole were more than headlines. They were sons, brothers, and dreamers like Michael Marino, who wanted to be a dancer, or David Talsma, who loved fixing cars. Their legacy lives in reforms, stricter parole oversight, faster Amber Alerts, and a societal shift toward valuing every life, regardless of background. Yet challenges remain. Over 600,000 people vanish annually in the U.S., many still overlooked due to race, class, or sexuality. As we close, we remember Gacy not as a mastermind, but as a cautionary tale, a man whose evil flourished in the gaps of empathy and justice. Let us honor the victims by demanding better, listening to the silenced, questioning the powerful, and never letting bureaucracy excuse inhumanity. Thank you for watching this video. You're watching Creepy Crime, and I will see you soon with the next case.